Today I want to talk to you about how to learn a song without using repetition. Now, what's the reason I want to talk to you about this? Well, the main reason is that it's one of the issues that hits so many of my clients, and I've talked about it before, but that as we get older, as I know all too well, it's harder to learn songs in the way we did as kids, which was just orally, by rote, we just used to take them in by osmosis somehow. But the older we get, the harder that becomes. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because many of you out there will have heard and been told, start with the words. And that's really good advice. But often we don't really have a true motivation to start with the words. So we sit down and we just start playing and we just start learning. You can see all my chaotic music behind me. We just go at it. And there are all sorts of tips and tricks to help you do that. And I've seen people lay pages out or words on different chairs to get different memories of where those words are, visualizations and all sorts of different techniques. But for me, the real key is connecting with the song, connecting with it like it's another living being. And so I would say is number one is start with understanding what the song is saying. Now, if it's in a foreign language, that means start with a really good translation. If it's a language you know, but it's not your mother tongue, really get into different meanings of the words and play around with it and dig into the meaning. If it's in your own language, it's almost harder to do this, but it's even more important to do this in some ways, because when it's a foreign language, it's often a natural thing to do to try and understand what they're saying. But we assume we know what they're saying when it's in our own language. So perhaps read it as a poem. Don't think about the rhythm of the music just yet, but read it as a poem to understand its meaning. If it's an aria, where does it fit within the opera? If it's music theatre, where does it fit within the story of the musical theatre piece, musical? If it's a standalone pop song, what's the message? What's the feeling? What's the writer trying to convey? What's the person trying to convey? If it's a lieder, an art song, what's the story? What is being transmitted from singer to audience, from composer through singer to audience? Who is saying what to whom and why? And what different interpretation can you have? I was doing a workshop this weekend and we were looking at how if you put the stress on a different word in the sentence. We were using the poem Sure on This Shining Night. So, sure on this shining night. 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 And how the different emphases can give different meaning to that sentence. So where is the peak of that sentence as you read it as a poem? And what different meanings and emotions are behind that. So really dig in to the meaning and the message within that song. Then number two, and this is something that I rarely see people do or hear people being told to do, told to think about. And that is, how do you feel about the song? How do you feel about the words? What does it trigger in you? What emotions does it trigger in you? And do you understand why it triggers those emotions? For example, does it remind you of anything? Does it remind you of a situation you've experienced? I was talking about a song this weekend, and there was a song about, well, it was actually the poem Sure on This Shining Night, and the phrase about high summer. It's a poem, but it's also a song, because as so often, poems are set to music. The phrase about high summer. And it triggered different emotions because I suffer terribly in the heat. So high summer holds different meanings for the people who love the heat. High summer was bringing out this wonderful feeling in one of the singers, and in me I was like, oh, hot. So our emotional reaction to the song can be really interesting. And so if you can look to the reason why it might be triggering those emotions, it may be it harks back to, as I say, an experience you've had. And recognizing this can help us process things. And it's amazing how songs can help us process stuff. They're so powerful for using them to express our emotions when sometimes we might feel inhibited to express those emotions ourselves. And if you struggle with the song, you can ask yourself, is it your emotional reaction to the song, a knee-jerk reaction perhaps, that is making it hard for you to sing this song freely or to get the words in your head? Maybe there's some resistance in you because of what it's triggering inside you. So number 2 is really understand your emotional relationship to this song, to try and get to a stage where you can connect with it, the things that have got in your way, you can let go of, or you at least understand. It's like love it for all its good parts and its bad parts. A bit like we love a partner or a child, we love them because of their idiosyncrasies. Sometimes despite, but even, we can love them for their quirks that other people find hugely annoying. And can you love this piece for all the twists and turns it has and how it makes you feel? Number 3, finally going to turn to the music and listen to the music. I would suggest listen to it on its own. Listen to the accompaniment. Listen to what is going on and think how it makes you feel. The warmth, the dynamic, the tempo, or is it cold and startling, or is it sparkly, or is it joyous? What is going on in the music? And then put the words against the music and think about how they relate to each other. What is the music communicating? And then when you put it together with the words, what is the words and the music communicating? In number 1, you were looking deeply at what the piece was communicating. Now, what's the music communicating, and how, with their combined voices, do they communicate more? Can you dig under, what the composer, and sometimes the composer and lyricist are different. The words and the music come from 2 different sources. So what's the composer interpreting, and do you like their interpretation? Does some of it jar? And if it jars, can you find a different interpretation that really makes sense? How does it relate to the words? You look at the dynamics and look at the tempo. What are they expressing? And how do they, sometimes they go in, they mirror the words, and sometimes they jar with the words. And what's the reason they do that? What are they expressing? And do you like what they're doing? If not, why not? And if so, why? What is it you like? What is it you dislike? And if you dislike it, again, what's the reason you dislike it? And really dig into it. When you've gone through all of this, you'll have a really good understanding of the piece, what it's expressing, how it makes you feel, what the music is expressing on a much deeper level, which means things like repetitions will make sense, because you won't say I love you twice for the same reasons when you really understand the meaning of it. What's the reason it's being said 3 times, twice, 4 times? What's going on that they feel the need to say it more times? What's going on in the music that makes that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th time different? How do they relate? Maybe the 2nd and 3rd time are more similar than the 4th time. Maybe they're all completely different. Maybe they're very similar, but then you look for the subtleties of difference. Is it difference in a dynamic? So to really understand what is being said by both words and music and the emotion behind them. And now when you've done all of that, think how you feel about the piece now. Do you feel the same way you did at the beginning? Has it changed? And if it's changed, what's changed? And if it hasn't changed, have there been subtleties that have changed? Has your physical reaction to the song changed? And finally, step 4, let go. And this can be the hardest step of all. Let go, because now you really understand the words, the music, the meaning, and how they relate. You can sing. And those things won't get in the way of what you're doing. So I hope that gives you a different insight into learning songs and perhaps a piece you might be working on or want to be working on next. So take a look and do that and dig a bit deeper. If you like this video and you're watching me on YouTube, then like and subscribe and all that stuff. If you're not already on my mailing list, then go to my website, findyourtruevoice.co.uk, and there's a free training there you can sign up for if you've liked what I've talked about today and like my way of looking at music and performing. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.